and welcome back. As always, my name is Addie and this is the Knits by AJ Knitting podcast, and this is episode 71. I hope you've all had a lovely couple of weeks. I feel like it's been really, really busy here, and as a result of that, I don't really feel like I've made as much progress on my projects as I would maybe have wanted to, but oh well, here we are. I have a schedule that I like to stick to when I'm filming these, and I think it's just nice to show any progress really. And it doesn't always have to be tons and tons of progress, because realistically, we don't always make that much progress on our projects, and that is fine. So yeah, I've got one finished object and 3 whips to talk through today, one of which is a new cast on, so I suppose there's that. And yeah, it's really starting to feel like autumn has arrived completely now. It's very, very grey and drizzly, and it's definitely gotten chillier. Like, it's definitely jumper weather now, and I'm very, very happy about it, because it means that I've actually managed to like pull all of my jumpers out of storage and I'm actually wearing them in rotation again. So yeah, my favourite time of year has finally arrived, and I'm very, very happy about it. Even if it does mean that I'm suddenly a lot busier than I usually am, but that is fine. So the first thing I have to talk about today is my Edale sweater, which is also what I'm wearing. So this is a test knit that I was doing for Iris of HIRIS Makes. The test deadline is like the end of this week, so I'm fairly sure that the pattern will be coming out fairly soon. I think I vaguely remember Iris saying that she wanted to have it out at the beginning of November, so hopefully this will be available for you guys fairly soon. I'll let you know when I know what date it's coming out, either on here in a video or in my Instagram stories or wherever. But yeah, I knit up size A. I think I have previously been referring to this as size 1, which is still technically correct, but the sizes in this pattern are lettered and not numbered, so this is size A. For reference, I do have a 76 centimetre chest, and I have about 16 centimetres of positive ease in this, which is, I think, a really nice, like, oversized fit. It's not too big and boxy, but it's not obviously like tight fitting. So yeah, I think it's a really, really nice amount of ease for this pattern. And because it's a raglan, it does also have quite a low yoke, which kind of helps with the added ease across the bust. So yeah, it fits so, so nicely. So the yarn that I used to knit this was Vilcolana Saga in the colour medium grey, which is a 100% lamb's wool, and it's a fingering weight, I believe. And then I held it with a strand of Vilcolana Alva in the colour charcoal, which is like a lace weight alpaca. And the drape in this is amazing. I think this was a really, really good choice for this jumper, where you want a little bit more kind of movement, you want it to be a little bit more fluid, and it kind of has really held up on the stitch definition as well. Like, the ribbing still kind of is very prominent in this without being too stretched out, and it's so, so soft. I think any worries that I had previously about this being itchy or anything have definitely gone away. I wore this all day yesterday, I'm wearing it again today, and it's just like wearing a cloud. It's so, so soft. It's not prickly, it's not tickly. Even when I get quite warm, it's not a problem. So yeah, I think my worrying about it being itchy or anything was definitely kind of unnecessary, because yeah, I have absolutely no problem with this whatsoever. So I did make a couple of modifications to this, but only in the like lengths of how long I knit things. So I lengthened my sleeves and my body ever so slightly, and I also lengthened the rib on the sleeves and the body to match the length of the collar. So you do like a 10 centimetre collar, and it's not like folded or anything. It's this nice little sort of high funnel neck. And I wanted to make sure that the ribbing on the bottom and on the sleeves matched up, just because that's my personal preference, that they all match. It's not too much of a big modification or anything, and I cleared it with Iris and that was fine. So yeah, I have a longer ribbing, and I also have a longer body and sleeve length because I have a long torso and I also have long arms. So yeah, those were the 2 modifications that I made. Other than that, I knit this completely to pattern, and I just think it's a really beautiful design. This is it's like a really elevated basic that you can dress up or dress down. and I can see myself wearing this a lot over the next sort of coming months. I lengthened my sleeves, and I kind of forgot that when you use alpaca, it does tend to grow in length a fair bit, or at least I've always experienced a growth in length when I'm using alpaca, not so much width-wise, but definitely like always in the length. And so my sleeves are pretty long. Like I've folded them up, but if I wear them down, then they are pretty long. And actually, I'm not at all mad about it. I really, really like it. So my sleeves, I knit to, how long did I knit? 41 centimetres before I did the rib, and then I did a 10 centimetre ribbing stockinette before you then go into the ribbing for the split hem, which I think is a nice little addition, that it doesn't just go straight into the ribbing, and it kind of just continues down in pattern for a little while. And then I obviously lengthened the rib on the bottom of the body as well. And I think this hits at a really nice level. It gives me bum coverage for when I'm wearing leggings and I don't necessarily want to be wearing something that much shorter. I don't mind that look. But yeah, I quite like to have a little bit more coverage. And yeah, I think it's just the most beautiful basic. Like I'm happy to wear this like just with my leggings and run errands and everything. I think it looks nice with jeans. I think it's going to look great with skirts. It's just, like I say, it's just a really nice casual basic. And I like the fact that because I've put the split a little bit lower down, so I've also lengthened the body. And so mine measures 29 centimetres from the underarm to the split for the hem. And I think I talked about last week how I'd never done a split hem before. I really like the split hem on this. So I knew that I wasn't going to have a problem with the way it's constructed, because I kind of already knew what the process was from sort of seeing other people do it. But I wasn't sure how I liked the look on me, because I don't really have anything that has a split hem in my wardrobe. And I absolutely love it. So if I stand up, I can show you kind of what this looks like on. Okay, so this is what we're looking like now that I have actually finished and washed and blocked this. And I've done my split hem so that it splits fairly low down. So I knit my body to 29 centimetres from the underarm before I then started the split hem. And there is a little bit of stockinette before you then go into the ribbing for the split hem, which I think is a nice little addition, that it doesn't just go straight into the ribbing, and it kind of just continues down in pattern for a little while. And then I obviously lengthened the rib on the bottom of the body as well. And I think this hits at a really nice level. It gives me bum coverage for when I'm wearing leggings and I don't necessarily want to be wearing something that much shorter. I don't mind that look. But yeah, I quite like to have a little bit more coverage. And yeah, I think it's just the most beautiful basic. Like I'm happy to wear this like just with my leggings and run errands and everything. I think it looks nice with jeans. I think it's going to look great with skirts. It's just, like I say, it's just a really nice casual basic. And I like the fact that because I've put the split a little bit lower down, it means that it doesn't really matter what I'm wearing underneath it. I think sometimes when you've got a higher split, although that does look really nice and it is flattering, I think it's annoying sometimes when you have to then think about what you're wearing underneath. Like I've just got the most like basic raggedy t-shirt on underneath, and I've liked the fact that I don't need to worry about putting on something that's like the same colour, or like have to think about what I've put underneath it. I can just shove it on. And yeah, you're not going to be able to see it like for that weird little bit of triangle, which is quite nice. So I weighed how much yarn I used, and the whole thing weighs 292 grams. It's like next to nothing. And so it doesn't really feel like you've got like a really heavy jumper on either. So it's really nice light layer, but it's still really nice and cozy because it's a mixture of lamb's wool and alpaca. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with the fit. I'm really, really happy with the yarn. And yeah, it's just the perfect like cozy, snuggly jumper that doesn't really need a lot of thought to make it look put together, if that makes any sense. It was also really cost effective on yarn. So I ended up using 151 grams of the Saga, which is just 4 balls. So I think if I'd had one ball in that was maybe like slightly over the 50 grams, then I probably could have gotten away with just having 3 balls. But yeah, I had to use 4 balls and I used 1 gram out of that 4th ball, which was a little bit annoying. But yeah, that was how much I used of the Saga, which works out about 906 meters. And then the Alva, I used 141 grams, which was 987 meters. Sorry, 987 meters. And I had a little bit left over of both of them, but not too much of the Alva. I think there was like 9 grams left here. So yeah, the yarn is just a real delight, and I'm really, really glad that I picked it for this project, because I think this being a little bit of a lighter layer just makes it so much easier for me to just chuck on as and when I need to. The only thing I will say about the yarn is because it's alpaca and, well, sorry, because I use a strand of alpaca and a strand of lamb's wool, it doesn't necessarily create like the thickest fabric, which is what I wanted, because it's still really warm, because the lamb's wool is woolen spun, so it traps in a lot of air and keeps you nice and cozy, although it's just not got a huge amount of structure. And so the back neck is kind of flapping back a little bit here. And I think that is purely just because I don't have a huge amount of structure, because I've got quite a high, like, because there's a lot of alpaca in here and it's not a particularly like tight gauge for this yarn. So yeah, I think it's more of a yarn choice problem than a pattern problem. I've seen a couple of other people's, like other testers, and they don't have that issue. I think it is just because my yarn is a little bit sort of thinner and therefore I don't have as much structure. So there's that to take into account. I mean, I guess I could, if I wanted to, put a little bit of elastic in this neckline to kind of like hold it up a bit or make it sit a little bit tighter. But I quite like having the movement in there. I don't like things really tight to my neck. So yeah, I'm not going to do anything about that. I'm pretty okay with it being like that, because if I have my hair down, you can't see it. Or if I'm wearing a jacket, you can't see it. So it's not really too much of an issue for me, but I just thought I'd mention it because I think that's the only kind of one little thing I would say about this yarn choice. But other than that, I absolutely adore this, and that doesn't bother me at all. So all in all, I cast this on the 21st of August and I cast it off on October the 12th. So it took me a grand total of 53 days to knit. And cost-wise, the pattern was obviously free because I received it as part of the test knit, and the yarn, I used 4 balls of the Saga, which comes to £20, and 6 balls of Alva, which was £19.80. So my grand total for this pattern was £39.80. And yeah, it's just an absolutely beautiful pattern. Lovely, lovely yarn choice. Would 100% recommend. And like I say, I'll let you all know when the pattern is coming out, so you guys can knit one as well if you would like to. So that is all I have for finished objects. I do now have some whips to go through, and I'm going to start off with the one that I have worked on the least over the past couple of weeks, and that is my Gr8 Gingham by Jessie May. And I am knitting this up in Yarbo 2TR Ull in the colours Cherry Pie and Apple Blossom. I vaguely remember this being Apple Blossom. And so, yeah, I'm also knitting size 1 in this. And I have barely picked this up over the past couple of weeks. And all of my stitches have fallen off my needles. Oh dear. This is what I get for not putting my needle stoppers on when I put my project down. Okay, so I don't even think I put in a marker where I was last time I showed this, but I'm pretty sure I was maybe here. So I've done, what, like 2 centimeters of work on the body, and all of it was done yesterday evening, because I spent quite a lot of time obviously like finishing off my Edale, and then I've been working on other things as well. And to be honest, it's just been busy. So I've not really had the brain space to pick up colour work. And I think all I've got on my needles now is colour work. So yeah, it might be time to start something that's not colour work for when my brain is not in the colour work space. But regardless, I have done a little bit of work on this, but also I've made some decisions when it comes to this. So I've been umming and ahhing about the length of the body on this. The sleeves, I'm pretty sure I've got to the point where I like them. But the body was something that was kind of, not knowing the length that I wanted to knit it to was kind of holding me back a fair bit. And so now I have actually managed to make a decision on this. So last year, was it last year or was it the year before? I can't remember. But previously I have knit the Edale Sweater by the Gr8 Gingham, and I love that thing. I wear it a lot. I actually wore it this morning to walk the dog, and it's become one of the it's become one of the easiest jumpers for me to just chuck on, because the length works really well when I'm wearing leggings, when I'm wearing jeans, if I'm wearing dungarees. And it's also an all over colour work raglan at a similar gauge. And so I think what I want to do is essentially just knit this to be the same kind of length as that one, so that I can interchange the two of them when I want a colour work raglan. And so I measured this up against my Edale sweater, and I also measured the yoke depth on my Edale sweater and compared it to the chart in the pattern for the Gr8 Gingham, and the yoke depths are pretty similar. And the body, to get this to the point where it would be the same length as my Edale sweater, I need to do another 10 centimeters, which I think works out as like another 2.5 pattern repeats after I finish the pattern repeat that I'm on at the moment. So I need 7.5 pattern repeats to make the body the same length before I then join it to the sleeves. And I also measured the sleeve up against my Edale sweater, and they are pretty much the same length as well once I add the ribbing. And so I think I'm pretty much on track to essentially have 2 colourwork raglans that are fairly interchangeable. And I'm really hoping that it actually comes out the same kind of fit, because like I say, I really, really love that jumper, and I would like to have another one with a similar kind of fit, but I don't want to knit the same pattern again. So yeah, I think this is going to slot really well into my wardrobe if I can manage to kind of replicate the fit of that jumper, which I think is fairly achievable. So I have another 2.5 pattern repeats to do, and then I will be joining for the yoke. And then I did want to add in some short rows, but I need to kind of figure out what I want to do with that. I'm pretty sure that I'm set on the idea of just doing the short rows in one colour and then like duplicate stitching the gingham motif onto it, and then just doing the neckline as normal. And then hopefully that will kind of allow me to raise the back neck a little bit more, because I think it's been said in a lot of Ravelry projects from this that the front of the neck does sit up pretty high. And so yeah, I would like to shape that a little bit. And I think that's probably going to be the easiest way to do it without making it too convoluted and needing to carry a lot of yarns the wrong way and everything. So yeah, that is my plan. I just hope that I can get a little bit more work done on this over the next couple of weeks. And since this is the only garment on my needles at the moment, I'm pretty sure that that should be achievable, because it's starting to, because now that I have a kind of vision in my head about how this is going to look and what I'm going to style it with, I'm really, really excited to be able to wear it. So yeah, hopefully get this off the needles fairly soon. Oops. Knocking things over as I put things down. And so that brings me to whip number 2, which is my You Silly Goose socks, which I'm knitting up for my husband. This is a pattern by Charlotte Stone of Stone Knits. And I'm knitting up size medium on 2mm needles, but I did use a 2.25mm needle for my toe and heel. And I'm using an array of different yarns for these. So I've got West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply in the colours Dusty Miller and Spruce. And then I've also got Drops Nord in the colours Off-White and Rust. So a lovely group of colours. And I think last time I showed these, I did put a marker in this one. So yeah, last time I showed these, I was here. So I was just finishing off this last row of geese, and I have since finished that row of geese, and I've added in the toe on sock 1. And that's it pretty much, because I've now started another pair of colourwork socks that have a little bit of a tighter deadline on them. And so that's kind of where my focus has been sock-wise recently. And these are going to be put on hold just until I finish that other pair of socks, because like I say, it's got a tighter deadline on it, and I think I should just put my time into finishing those off and then get back to these, since I don't need to have these done until December anyway. But now that I only have one more sock to do, and I know like what length I need to knit it to and everything, and how many colour work repeats and everything I need to do, it doesn't really feel like that's unachievable. So yeah, it's nice to have half a gift knit already finished, and we're only like halfway through October. So yeah, so this is what they look like now. I did end up having to add in a bit of length after the last row of geese. So the pattern recommends doing 3 rows of geese for the foot, but because I'm knitting these for my husband and not for myself, I needed to add a little bit more length. So I added in another row of the geese on top of what the pattern recommended. And then I still needed just a little bit more length. And so I decided to carry on in the main colour. And then there's a stripe in the ribbing at the cuff. And so I decided to just kind of match that at the bottom of the foot and added in a stripe of the contrast that I'm using for the heel, cuff and toes. So I think it looks fairly okay. I thought it was going to look more odd if I just had a big expanse of green here. I was going to do the stripe in orange, but as the stripe was in the green and not in the grey, I thought, oh, I'll just do the grey and then I can just carry it down into the toe, and then the end isn't in the toe, it's a little bit further up as well. So I think it still looks fine. It kind of, because there is that stripe in the ribbing, it does kind of tie itself together. And to be honest, it's the toe. It's going to be in his socks. Not socks. It's going to be in his shoes. So no one's really going to notice it. And I think it'll look fairly intentional once I've got the other one knit as well. So yeah, that is where we are with my You Silly Goose socks. This colourwork motif just knits up so quickly. Actually, to be honest, with all of Charlotte Stone's patterns, the colourwork motifs just knit up really, really quickly. And I really, really enjoy them. I'm really in a big like colourwork sock moment at the moment. And it was nice to like shove this on my husband's foot the other day to check the length of the foot and for him to say, oh, that's nice and cozy. So yeah, I'm hoping that these are going to be a real kind of staple in his sock collection, and that I can knit him some more colourwork socks, because I'm really, really enjoying them at the moment. So yeah, that is where we are with these. I do want to get sock 2 cast on fairly soon after I finish my other pair of socks, so hopefully these won't be lingering as a whip for too long. And maybe I'll even knit him up a more festive pair as well, so he can have 2 pairs of colourwork socks for Christmas and then have nice cozy warm feet all the way through the winter. Or maybe I'll see if I can get him a pair knit up so that he can have them on like the 1st of December or something as like an Advent gift, so that he can actually get some wear out of them throughout December. So yeah, that is my You Silly Goose socks. Again, not a lot of progress, but we'll be coming back to them fairly soon. And I cast these on September the 24th, and so they have currently been on my needles for 22 days. So the last whip that I have to talk about today is another pair of colourwork socks. So this is my I Ain't Afraid of No Ghosts socks from the Spooky Sock set by, again, Charlotte of Stone Knits. And I am just absolutely loving these. So these are obviously the socks that I am now knitting on with the more pressing deadline, because we are currently on the 15th of October and Halloween is coming fairly soon. So I want to get some wear out of these. Although having said that, I do wear my other ghost socks, the pair that I knit from the October chart of the Colourwork Cuff Club by Summer Lee last year, all the time. So I don't think these are going to be like only Halloween socks for me, but it'd be nice to actually be able to get some wear out of them around Halloween this year. So I'm using a couple of different yarns for these, and not the yarn that I initially thought I was going to be using when I first planned this project back in my autumn making plans. And so the main colour I have kept the same. This is Knitcraft The Perfect Pair, I think it's called, in the colour Pastel Stripe. And then I was initially going to be using the Drops Nord in the colour Off-White, like I am for my husband's You Silly Goose socks, as the contrast colour for the ghosts. But I didn't really anticipate the fact that the kind of like yellow in this was gonna not really be a very good contrast with the white. Like when I started this, I did a couple of rounds of the colour work with the white and you just couldn't see it. And now looking back on that, I realized that actually I was doing that quite late at night in my living room that doesn't have the best lighting, and you probably would have been able to see it perfectly fine. But actually I'm really happy that I then ripped it out because I think my current color choice is a lot more fun. So now for my contrast color, I am using Rico Socks Neon in the color yellow. Now this never comes across particularly well on camera because it is just so bright. I think that's fairly accurate. But yeah, it's a really like true like highlighter neon yellow. And it just makes these like already fairly silly Halloween socks, because I'm using the pastel colours for the background colour, just a little bit more fun. So this is my progress so far. I have done a little bit of jiggery pokery with the sizing on this as well. So they are ever so slightly different to my husband's pair. But here are my neon ghosts. I just think they're so much fun and I absolutely love these socks. I think they're going to be such a fun little addition to any like Halloween outfit that we put together, even if I'm like in all black and then I just have these ridiculous neon pastel Halloween socks. I think it's just so much fun. So yeah, here are my ghosties and they're just so cute. Again, I don't have a huge amount of contrast between that kind of buttery yellow in the background and the neon, because you do use the same colour from the background colour to do the face on the ghosts. So like my top and middle ones on the leg are both blue, and then the mouth I think is yellow in this one, and honestly you just can't see it all that well, but I'm not really all that fussed to be honest. It's like one set of ghosts and I've got the whole foot to go. So yeah, I also omitted the stripe in the ribbing that the pattern suggests because I'm using a self-striping yarn and it already had like started to self-stripe, so I didn't see the point in changing the colour. I was going to do a stripe of the yellow in the ribbing, but to be honest, because it had already started to stripe yellow, I just didn't really see the point in changing the colour and having the extra ends. I think this kind of like did the work for me. I changed the rib, so the pattern suggests a 1x1 rib, I think. I did 2x1 rib because it's like my preferred rib. I did it on 63 stitches. And then I decided to decrease down to the stitch count for size 1. And that's because I knit myself a pair of Tiptoe Through the Tulip socks by Charlotte Stone. And I knit the size medium in those, and they have kind of stretched out a little bit. And I like the fit of them, but they are just a little bit loose on my foot and my leg. So I thought I'll just see if I can go down to the first size. And as my colourwork tension is fairly loose anyway, it's looser than my stockinette, I think they'll still fit me fairly well. And I tried these on the other day and I can still get them on and like over my foot fairly easily. So yeah, I think that actually it's going to fit me a lot better than just knitting them in the size medium and then them stretching out over time. And I'm using the same yarn as I used in my Tiptoe Through the Tulips socks. I used the Rico Socks Neon in the colour green for those. And then obviously now I'm using the yellow for these ones. But yeah, this colourwork chart is just so much fun. So I've already worked my way through the leg. This took me like next to no time. This was like an evening and a half's work. It's really, really quick to knit up and it's very, very addictive. So I now just need to put in my heel and then work the foot, and I've already got one sock done. So I don't think these are going to take me too long to knit at all because I'm so excited about knitting them as well. I really can't wait to get back to them. So yeah, I am using a 2mm needle for the whole of these socks. I will change to a 2.25 for my heel and my toe like I did with my husband's ones. But like I say, my colourwork gauge is just so loose, so I've had to go down a couple of needle sizes. The pattern recommends knitting the colourwork on a 2.5mm needle, and I knew that if I knit these on a 2.5mm needle they would fit giant's feet because they would be huge. So yeah, 2mm needle, and I just think they're so fun. And yeah, I'm really, really happy with how these are turning out. I also used a 2mm needle for my ribbing which I always do because I don't know what it is about ribbing with me, because when I knit like 1 by 1 rib on my jumpers and everything, it always looks fine. If I knit 1 by 1 rib on a sock, like I have on my husband's ones, like that just looks really sloppy. And then you look at my 2 by 1 rib and it just looks so much neater. So yeah, this is why I don't do 1 by 1 rib on my socks very often, because my 2 by 1 rib just looks so much better. So yeah, that's why it's my preferred rib. But oh, these are just so cute together. I'm so happy with how these are turning out. So yeah, like I say, don't think these are going to be on my needles for too long. Very excited to be able to wear them. Very happy with how they're knitting up. And yeah. Oh, I did think actually what I might do is increase and do the heel from the size 2, the medium size in this pattern, so it gives me a little bit more space across the heel of my foot, because I think if I do the size 1 then they might be a little bit too tight. So yeah, I think I'm going to increase up again and do the size medium heel, and then decrease back down and do the size 1, the smaller size, for the foot and the toe. So yeah, I'll be able to let you know how that works for fit wise and everything. And then if it works for this one, then I'll probably do it again for any other colourwork socks that I want to do using Charlotte Stone's patterns. I think because of the way the chart works out, the size medium actually ends up being on a stitch count that's more like the size up of socks that I would usually knit, if that makes any sense. It's hard to say about this without giving away too much in the pattern, but yeah, the size 1 stitch count is much more similar to the stitch count that I would usually knit socks for myself on, so hence why I decided to go down. But yeah, those are my Halloween socks so far. Very, very different to my Halloween socks from last year. And I cast them on October the 12th, and so they've currently been in my needles for 4 days. So yeah, that is all of my knitting for this week. So much colour work. I think I named last week's episode Scratching the Colourwork Itch, so I have no idea what I'm going to end up naming this one, because it's just all colour work apart from my one finished object. So yeah, that is everything I have knitting wise. I do have a sewing project to share with you all, because I did finally finish something. So last week I mentioned about how there was a lot of mess in here because I was working on making my daughter's bluey kit bag by Rosie Caldwell, and I did finish this week. So my daughter did her ballet exam, her first ever ballet exam yesterday. It was such an exciting day, but just complete and utter chaos because I had to like take her out of school, take her to the exam, take her back to school, all that kind of thing. And so it just felt like the entire day I was just ferrying her back and forth. But I decided that I needed to get this bag finished so that she could use it for that exam. I initially made this so that she would have it for her swimming lessons, but actually I feel like it's going to be a real like multi-purpose bag that we use for all of her clubs. And it's just like exceeded my expectations on how well it's turned out. So this is what it looks like. It's going to just look really floppy and rubbish at the moment because it's not really got anything in, but yeah, here we are. So it's an all over quilted kit bag. It's got, and it's like in this like rounded sort of bolster shape. So you've got a quilted circular side panel on one side, and then there's one with the kind of like elasticated gathered pocket on the other side. That looks like nothing. This is not very easy to show. So yeah, that's the other side. And then you've got 2 handles on the sides, which were a lot easier to attach than I thought they were going to be. And then there's a pocket on this side with this like elasticated thingy. And I did add on these little little loops that were in the pattern for this elasticated bit, but sewed them on wrong. So we just won't pay a lot of attention to the fact that they are all different sizes. No one's going to notice, okay? No one should be looking that closely. And then the like shoulder strap you can take on and off with the little clippy things. And then it's got a zip, and more blue fabric on the inside and an inside pocket and everything. So the only thing that I haven't done is put the bias binding on the inside seams for the sides. So they're currently just left as raw edges because I finished this like really, really late at night on Monday, and then she had the exam on Tuesday, so I just didn't get a chance to do that. But I will do it fairly soon, so it's all nicely finished on the inside, or I might just go in with my overlocker and just overlock the seams because I'm lazy and I am not the biggest fan of doing bias binding. But either way, she now has a nice kit bag that she can use, and she was so excited to use it. She was like, "Mummy, can I carry the bag?" I was like, "Yeah, sure. If you want to carry things, you carry them." Because trying to get 5-year-olds to carry their own stuff so that you don't look like you're playing buckaroo on the way home from the school run is just the most difficult thing in the world. So yeah, if she's ever feeling enthusiastic enough to carry her own bags, I am all for it. So yes, this is the Quilted Kit Bag by Rosie Caldwell. It was a really great pattern. It had a really nice video to follow along with in case you had any issues with the instructions. Instructions were really clear. Yeah, would 100% recommend if you were looking for a bag pattern. I do now want to make up some of her like quilted project bags for some of the many projects that I have on the needles at the moment, because I don't really have that many project bags, and I've got a load of like random bits of fabric that I could probably make project bags out of in my stash. I also think I might make some of the toiletry bags as well for people for Christmas gifts this year. I've got quite a few family members that are going away on lots of like holidays and things. My sister moved out to go to university, so I think they would all benefit from a nice homemade personalized toiletry bag for any of their trips and things. So yeah, I might do some making up of those as well. So yeah, that is everything I have to share today. I'm hoping to get back to making some of the ornaments for my daughter's advent calendar, because I am well aware of the fact that I am very behind on that at the moment. So I think that's going to be my next thing, have a big sort of session of making some ornaments. I've got a lot of yarns in this cubby up here that are like all of my sort of partial skeins, so I'm going to have a hunt through those and pick some out to make some ornaments with. And other than that, I'm going to be knitting a lot of colour work. So yeah, thank you so very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please do feel free to give it a like. If you are new here and you want to stick around, then please feel free to subscribe. I'm surprised we have managed to make it through an entire episode without an appearance from one of the dogs, so perhaps I will go and see what they're up to now. They're probably causing some sort of chaos downstairs. But yeah, thank you so very much for watching, and I will catch up with you all in another couple of weeks with another podcast. Happy making!